Well, ladies and gentlemen, get woke, go broke is absolutely a thing. We talk about it all the time, and we've talked about it when it comes to Wizards of the Coast. Now, Wizards of the Coast have been making some interesting changes within their, framework, let's just say. And some of the changes their fan base seems to love. Some of the changes their fan base seems to absolutely hate. You're going to have your virtue signals online that are going to pretend as if Black Aragorn is the most stunning and brave thing they've ever seen in their life. You know what I mean? Like, you're always going to get that. But apparently, the executive over at Wizards of the Coast just recently resigned, even after, for only being there for 2 years, I believe, even after Wizards of the Coast overall is sinking in Magic of the Gathering from identity politics.
Fantastic. Where's the shovel?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this woman just recently left, Cynthia Williams. She was the president over on Wizards of the Coast and apparently has completely exited the company to the point when people are trying to make fun of it by saying bye Karen and all that. It honestly, she looks like the type of person that would ruin your fandom if you catch my drift. I really don't think she's a nerd by any standard. But again, most of these people who are in charge of these companies are not exactly nerds to begin with. So let's get into this article, guys, from Phantom Pulse. But of course, before we do, if you are new here, just consider hitting that subscribe button. I would greatly appreciate it, and like the video to push us out into that YouTube algorithm. It says, in the wake of Games Workshop controversy centering around Warhammer 40k, utilizing the Kathleen Kennedy formula of putting a chicken and make it lame and gay, Wizards of the Coast once again reminds the tabletop gaming industry that they are still all-time undisputed kings of the landfall with an abrupt staff change, this time being the outgoing president of Wizards of the Coast, Cynthia Williams. Williams has been president of the often disgraced Wizard of the Coast for the last 2 years. Okay, I was right. And it's been one of the most painful tenures we've seen at any mainstream gaming company, as Cynthia Williams is a prime example of the Dunning-Kruger effect that has plagued the mainstream in the last decade. You would think if you were running a game company, you would easily pick the best person for the job, someone who knows the lore of Magic the Gathering and Dungeons & Dragons front to back, right? In this case, Chris Cox, an apt name, the CEO of Wizards of the Coast parent company Hasbro, didn't think so and hired Cynthia Williams, even though she had absolutely zero experience playing either of those games. So again, what I said earlier sticks true, right? Every time you see someone like this, okay, you look at them and you can just tell. You can call it stereotyping, you can call it being assumptive, whatever the case may be. You could just fucking tell that there is no way that this woman is a fan or of anything that she's working on. She's not a fan of Magic the Gathering. She damn sure is not a fan of any of the other IPs that they have and that they're in charge of. This woman is absolutely not a nerd whatsoever. Dungeons & Dragons, Magic the Gathering, it doesn't matter. She is not for it. And they decided to hire her anyway. Why? Because she's a great diversity hire. She fits the mold. They can say they have a woman in charge. They made a woman a CEO, blah, blah, blah. And guess what happened when the woman was a CEO, ladies and gentlemen? You got Black Aragorn here. You got Black fucking Aragorn. And then they gaslit you and say, well, Aragorn was never specifically said to be white. Really? Seriously? Like, this is what we're doing here. Then it says, if you look at Cynthia Williams' background, it all has the makings of your standard corporate empty suit. It's no wonder Chris Cox handpicked her to be the president of Wizards of the Coast, and under her tenure, it consisted of the usual modern corporate shenanigans. First off, the recent addition to the ESG backed and funded by way of DEI by race-swapping Aragorn for their release of The Lord of the Rings Tales from Middle-earth, set back in 2023. The game's senior art director, Ovidio Cartagena, defended this action, saying, at any given time, we are surrounded by diversity. It is our hope in this world to someday get along and come together despite our differences. It's also a message from all of us fans to all the walks of life. You are welcome here. You have a place here. You belong. Now, when it came to Magic the Gathering, I mean, I would assume there was no, like, whites only sign that was on Magic the Gathering. I mean, I know a lot of white people play Magic the Gathering, and it's not exactly super diverse, but I mean, that's by choice. You know what I mean? Nobody complains when a lot of black people play NBA 2K. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a thing. You know, certain people have certain interests, and that's just what it is. Now, you're going to say, oh, you made it more diverse. You're going to say you're surrounded by diversity. Well, you're very much clearly not a fan of Tolkien, right? You very much clearly are not a fan of Lord of the Rings, because if you were, you would understand that that story is extremely diverse, even though it is supposed to mimic, obviously, Europe during the time of Tolkien. It is not a non-diverse story. It is an extremely diverse story. You got races of all kinds in that story. You got creatures of all kinds in that story. It is literally a story about what happens when multiple different races and different people of different backgrounds come together for a common goal to defeat evil. That is like the simplest story, the simplest like archetype of a story that you could think of, and yet it was more diverse than anything that has come out in recent day. It says that statement alone sounds like empty corporate sloganeering from any modern-day Madison Avenue marketing hack full of buzzwords and flowery, non-offensive wordplay. There's also an incident that centers around removing race from Dungeons & Dragons and even going so far as to remove half species from the game under the excuse of it being inherently racist, in an attempt for Wizards of the Coast chasing the mythical modern audience, which we all know that their so-called modern audience are woke investors and donors, i.e. BlackRock and Vanguard. This act was so inclusive that even Wizards of the Coast executive producer and probably the next president of the company, Kyle Brink, went even further by stating this is not the face of the hobby anymore. And I think there's been mistakes made in years past where people assumed that D&D players were all, white dudes in a basement, which has been a faulty assumption for a lot of years and gets more and more false every day. And so in my viewpoint, guys like me can't leave soon enough. So leave. I don't understand. Leave. Go. Bye. Get out. Like, see, that's the problem. That's my problem when it comes to virtue signalers, right? When you want to virtue signal something like this, that extreme, you want to say, and so in my viewpoint, guys like me can't leave soon enough. If that is your sentiment and that is your virtue signal, I need you to stand up, use your two legs, and get the fuck out. Get out. Bye. Leave. The problem is that you won't do it. The issue is that your virtue signal only goes so far as the words that leave your mouth, and that's it. It'll never become action. You will never actually leave. You will never actually give up your position of prominence. You will never actually give up your position for a white person. You're not going to leave, but you're talking about how, you leaving can't happen soon enough. Get out. Get the fuck out then. If you have a problem with the scene, if you have a problem with the game, get the fuck out. Let diverse people take over so it can go into the ground faster. Just get out. You got nothing to lose, right? You want to get replaced, right? You can't leave soon enough, right? So leave. Get out. But see, I cannot take their virtue signal seriously because they will never actually leave. They will never actually do what they say. It is literally just empty words that they put out there on Twitter and in interviews to make themselves look better so that they already know their job's on the line, right? They're white males who are straight. They got a lot to lose, so they're going to virtue signal nonstop in the hopes that nobody comes for them. That's basically it. However, the biggest sin that Wizards of the Coast has committed under the tenure of Cynthia Williams is the blatant attempt to change the foundation of Dungeons & Dragons by modifying the open gaming license. They tried to accomplish two objectives with this move, the first being its transition to a virtual tabletop format in which they would charge microtransactions to make a game that is already expensive to procure any ephemera from aside the player's handbook into something in which even to play the game properly would rival the budgets of Warhammer 40K and BattleTech. The second objective can be explained within the first draft of the proposed OGL, which gives Wizards of the Coast the right to halt publication of any content deemed blatantly racist, sexist, homophobic, transphobic, bigoted, or otherwise discriminatory. And knowing how modern corporate America is, the definition of that statement is fluid and interchangeable to the point that an innocuous floor design will be deemed as such because if it looked at a certain way, the design resembles swastikas. So again, ladies and gentlemen, they tried to be the arbiter of truth when it came to what was considered racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever. Obviously, you guys know those are just buzzwords, and they can mean whatever the person looking at it wants it to mean. So if they want to be offended by something simplistic, they will get offended by something simplistic. If they want to get offended by something that actually nobody in the world will get offended by, then they will. That's why they want total control over the conversation. So Wizards of the Coast lost someone who clearly didn't care about the IP, and I am sure she's going to be replaced by someone who's going to ruin it even further into the ground. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you did enjoy it. If you did, consider leaving me a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Don't forget to like the video, comment, let me know what you thought, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Hypnotic out.